I'll run through the whole morning for you. I went upstairs to make the breakfast, and I had 2 guests in suite 2. My daughter was still in bed down in the apartment on the other side of the laundry room, and I could smell fuel, and I looked everywhere. I looked in the oven and everything, not knowing where the fuel smell was coming from. But the smell was getting stronger, so I followed my nose and opened the door and went back down into the basement. And I was met by this red fluid on the floor, no idea what it was. I made my way slippering, grabbing onto things into the laundry room where the original oil tank was. And there was still that big gap in the wall where the oil tank had been taken out. And there was just this massive flood of red fluid just flowing in through the place, like right across to the back wall, just everything seeping, and just a really strong smell. That laundry room was probably at least ankle deep in oil. Then it was running down into my daughter's room. So I started screaming across the laundry room for my daughter to get out of the property and not to touch anything, not to turn anything on. I wasn't sure if it was flammable or not, so I was just screaming at her to get out. And then I went to electricity mains and I switched everything off at the mains. And then I called, screaming at him, something awful is wrong. There's fuel pouring into the house and I don't know where it's coming from. And then at a later date, my daughter told me that after she got out onto the back deck, and got the cat and got out onto the back deck, she could hear shouting at the truck driver that to stop, and we don't have an oil tank in there. And then I went back in through the living room. I was still in the apartment, and the oil man just showed up in the apartment, and he just looked at me aghast. He said, "What?" And I said, "We do not have an oil tank." From the minute I called and then trying to get my daughter out of the house and know where the cat was, etc. And then my next step was turn off the electricity. Then I nearly broke my leg running upstairs, slipping on oil, going up the stairs too, because my feet were covered in oil, to get to the second floor to tell the guests in suite 2 that they needed to get up and exit the property immediately. No time for showers or anything, just out the door with them. And then I didn't want my daughter, she had asthma, and I did not want her near the property. As soon as it happened, I was like, "You need to get out of here immediately." And I handled it myself. Foremost, my most important thing was to get the boys' ashes out of that building. And then I had a very, very large picture of them, which we ended up having to take off the frame and roll, and managed to rescue. Couldn't really rescue anything else because the smell of oil was embedded in everything, destroying especially the memories of my boys, like on the tapes and stuff like that. Right outside the back doors of the apartment was a very badly bricked and sanded area, which it was like coming away. The house was coming away from its foundations. So any oil that came out of there probably went down into that sand. Nobody went downstairs to try to stop oil going down out onto that porch. I worked in that for 2 days straight with them fumes. Nobody had hazmat masks on or anything, you know. I got very sick them first few days. I was there until the following Thursday, and then for the sake of my own mental health and my daughter's, and we just got out of Dodge. So we kind of lived in and out of a van for the best part of 6 weeks or more, and then hotel rooms, and then we're like gypsies, we were like nomads, you know. So for my furniture downstairs, all my personal belongings, all my clothes, I came back to Ireland with 1 suitcase with stuff I had bought in Walmart. So I felt like I left Ireland 35 years ago with 1 suitcase, and I come home 35 years later with 1 suitcase. It was approximately 2:19 when that tank came out. Nothing happened in 2018 with that tank because it took up most of the laundry room. So it was an absolute nuisance in the laundry room, and it was an eyesore as well. So yeah, it was definitely 2019. because he left it sitting on the back porch, and you can't even begin to tell you how damn embarrassing that was for me as an innkeeper, with that ugly big bronze tank sitting on the back porch. I just did my best, you know. To me, it was about hospitality and food and not what was going on around them. It was a money maker, that house. We were constantly full. I was working 7 days a week. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I just freaking work. I'm a hard worker. The dishwasher broke and it hadn't been working for about a year. And I washed all the dishes by hand. So I started fixing things myself. I bought myself a toolkit and I fixed things myself. But there was big cracks in the walls in there, in that front room. When you walked in from the sitting room area into the back room, you could see where the wall was coming away. The decks were treacherous. They were never power washed. They were actually ended up getting power washed. The upstairs deck got power washed that week of the spill because I slipped and fell and hit my mouth on the railing and broke a tooth. My front tooth was broken that very week before the oil spill. I look back on it with like horror, really. Everything that happened the whole time I was working. And my daughter, losing her brothers, and then she was already very fragile, and then the oil spill. My daughter ended up going into a mental health facility after we left her. I'm just glad to get them out of my life and put them behind me. Nobody from the town ever contacted me. This should have been made very public at the time. There should have been a town hall meeting at the time. There should have been a note put through everybody's door. And notices up on the Facebook and everything. There was nothing, because I was watching from afar, and I even would log in to see what was any news on, see if anything was happening, and there was nothing ever publicly said about it until now. And that's thanks to you and your due diligence, you know, not them. They have not made this public at all. They've tried to keep it under wraps all the time. This is several times since I came home that I've been like horrendously sick. My inside of my mouth was like on fire for the longest time, and my throat keeps getting sore. So yeah, I might go and explain this to my doctor what I was involved in that back then. And my daughter's actually still in a facility. She checked herself in, and she's getting herself some treatment to help balance out the the problems that came around about from working. You know, Guy, I don't want to sound petty or anything, but there was so much scandal in that wee town that involved so many people. And I stayed far away from them all as possible because I just thought there was a den of iniquity. When I lost my boys, I was in North Carolina, and that whole entire city, that whole county really, came up behind us and wrapped us in blankets and carried us through the grief and helped to pay for funerals and everything. And believe me, if you ask enough people, anytime anybody was sick in that town, I was the one up and made a pie and brought it over to their house and made dinner and dropped it off at their house. I was a genuinely good neighbour. The old person that lived up beside, I would go up there and bring them up tea and scones and baked goods, and Arthur right up until he left there to see him, you know. I was genuinely good neighbour. And my daughter, we were good neighbours. Do anything for anybody. She would drive the drunks home. So we were good people. And then when that disaster happened to us, not one single person in that town came near us to see if we needed anything. Could they do anything for us? Did we need driving anywhere? Nothing. Not a single goddamn thing. And that's because we were covering everything up, and then everybody went into their little hidey holes. So I wouldn't go back to Harpers Ferry if you actually gifted me the whole damn town. But thank you for thinking of me. Yeah, it's something that's very close to my heart. I do it in memory of my boys, you know, and it's so funny because I'm actually the only female in any of the men's groups. It's men's sheds, so technically it's for men, but I became the cabinet secretary one because this is where our boys love this place. But yeah, it's a really good program. It's about mental health and keeping men active. The thing is that men don't talk, you know, and which which is my youngest son that took his own life. That's exactly, he just couldn't talk to anybody about his grief on losing his brother, and that's what happened. So technically this is about them, my boys, and other men that do need the company, and so I organised the events and stuff like that there, and it's good. And so we've recently acquired a boat, but now we need an engine for the boat, and but that's going to be a good thing. We're going to launch that in the summertime on Camera Lake, and that'll be a great thing, so these older guys can get out on the boat. And one of our guys who's younger in many ways, a lot of our team still work, they actually have jobs, everybody else is kind of retired, but they will take the guys out, the older men, out on the boat, and we're going to see, can we get some fishing rods and things and let them go fishing on the lake and enjoy the weather. And while we're out there, part of our job is to be looking for green algae and stuff like that there, making sure that there's no trash and all around the side of the lake. We do clean-ups and things, get plastic bags and go out and take things out. It's amazing what people will throw, especially in lakes. We'll pull out a mattress one day. Who does that nonsense? But anyway, on we go.